is Lexi Koki. After reading The Body Ritual Among the Necroma by Minor, I had found it very interesting, very weird in simple terms, and very unusual. A lot of what I had read was not something I had imagined it would be part of the US American culture, but I can see that in this group, particularly this group, that it was a good culture for them. I think that a lot of it is still happening today, especially with body image. In the article, I did talk about the way women would shrink or enlarge their breasts to make a better size breast for themselves. If it was too big or too small, they'd go bigger or smaller, just depending. You see that a lot today, especially in magazines or in influencers or in kind of social medias and much like that. I come from a Hawaiian culture, and I think compared to the American culture, it's very different from morals, practices, medicines, everything like that. I think from an outside viewer, they'd find it very confusing, or they'd have a hard time understanding, much like the communication patterns back in the 1700s. They'd speak in riddles and things where I believe if you were to say the same thing to someone now, they wouldn't understand unless they're very clever or could speak riddles themselves. From an outsider viewer, it could be seen as time-consuming or just unneeded because it was riddle. You don't want to be solving riddles all day. You'd rather just get the literal definition. But I do think it could help sharpen the mind of a person who wants to learn the language. I think how it's connected to the US cultural worldview today is a lot of things are literally translated. I think how a Hawaiian language, or the communication pattern in Hawaiian language, was connected to the US cultural view or values by the fact that I think today that a lot of times you have to be sharp-minded or intelligent to understand the important things, or at least things that you need to communicate. It has changed throughout history since the 1700s. Especially, there was a period of time when the Hawaiian language was actually banned in Hawaii, so you couldn't speak it, and there it kind of lost its I would say its groove of how it worked, so it changed. And especially there was a time when there was a lot more foreigners coming in. It turned from riddles to literal translations so that people would be able to understand without having to know all these things. I think it's become much more simple. There's no deep meaning to what you're saying. You're just saying something, and you're just trying to communicate and share what needs to be said. How the changes was beneficial to the US culture. There is an article by Charles Elliott. He is part of the Department of Communication at Cedarville University. He's a professor there. He has helped us to understand that cross-culture communication is actually very important, and when one side can't understand the other, much like how one side may not be able to understand riddles, or riddles will change, or it's different meanings for everyone. it's better that it's beneficial because there is no room for miscommunication because of literal translations. There's no mistake in reasoning of what you're trying to share. There is the change is beneficial because it helps for one person to understand the other instead of going through so much processes to understand one thing when it could be even the simplest things. I'm not saying that the way it changed was good because the whole history behind it is not that great, but I do think there was a benefit like that in the fact that it changed. It could be detrimental because of how it basically changed the language to support another language in a way, saying that the U.S. worldview kind of revolves around them, or we need to understand English more than our own language. So I think that's the way it could be a bit detrimental, but I do think there is more benefits when it comes to the fact of how it changed.